Yeah, welcome to the show. This is your AEW Dynamite recap for Wednesday, February 24th. Let's go! Yeah. What's up, everybody? I am Dave. Simon Johnny North is with me here. We're here to recap AEW Dynamite. I hope everything sounds good. I hope we're sounding good. Everything's good, Johnny. We had a couple issues to resolve before the show. I'm hearing some, scratching in my headphones. Hopefully that's just in my headphones. How are you, Johnny? How do you sound? How do you feel?
Well, I feel like garbage today, but as long as you can hear me, I guess that's good.
Why do you feel bad? What's wrong?
Well, after the Canadiens game last night and they fired their coach, I'm pretty pissed today, but, you know.
The Canadiens fired their coach? That's too bad. Yeah, I don't really know about that. That's hockey stuff. I don't really care whatsoever. I'm here to talk about AEW. I'm here to talk about The Big Show. Paul Wight, The Big Show, the giant Paul Wight is all elite. He has signed with AEW, and I know that we saw Dynamite tonight, but I feel like the biggest news of the day in professional wrestling was AEW news. They broke it themselves. They broke it out on Twitter. They didn't choose to save it for their TV show, announce it on TV. What did you think, first of all, John, of the announcement to break it on Twitter and not do it on their Dynamite TV show? I was a little bit surprised. You have a big signing like Big Show Paul Wight. I would have thought that you would have waited for him to just show up on TV. He is supposed to show up on Dynamite next week. They promoted his appearance tonight. Tony Schiavone mentioned that he's going to be on Dynamite. Of course, Tony Schiavone mentioning that Big Show will also be co-hosting the new AEW YouTube show, AEW Dark Elevation, that will premiere on Monday, March 15th. Will air at 7 p.m. Eastern Time Mondays on YouTube. That will complement AEW Dark, which already airs on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on YouTube. So AEW adding a second Dark-style program on YouTube on Monday nights. Big Show and Tony Schiavone will be doing the commentary for it, but Schiavone also mentioned that Big Show has a wrestling license. We said Paul Wight has a wrestling license, right? Can't call him Big Show. But Paul Wight has a wrestling license, which means he can wrestle in AEW, which means he will wrestle in AEW, which I'm very excited about. AEW, a company that needs size, that needs star power, and you get 2 for 1. You get 2 birds stoned at once, as the great Ricky from Trailer Park Boys might say. 2 birds stoned at once with the Big Show coming into AEW. You get a bona fide megastar, legit Hall of Famer in professional wrestling, one of the greatest big men of all time, and you get a huge dude, which I think you need in AEW. A lot of smaller guys on the roster. They're adding some size. You see some of the pickups that they've added over the past, year or so. A lot of bigger guys, Miro, Brian Cage, Lance Archer. Some of their pickups since the company has begun has been kind of larger men. And it doesn't really get much bigger than Paul Wight, the Big Show. I would have liked to have seen them announce it on Dynamite, or maybe announce it with him just appearing on Dynamite. I feel like that's the way you introduce a big star to your wrestling company. You don't just do a tweet the day of your show. Like they did the tweet today. Couldn't they have just waited until tonight to announce it on Dynamite? Okay, Big Show's not going to be there, but make the announcement on Dynamite. I thought it was weird to do it on Twitter. But that's kind of AEW's MO, right? That's how they operate. They're kind of disjointed. There's stuff that happens on Being the Elite. There's stuff that happens on Dark. There's stuff that happens on Twitter. There's going to be stuff that happens now on Dark Evolution. There's stuff that happens in their women's tournament on Monday nights with the Japanese roster. There are other matches in their women's tournament that are just happening on Bleacher Report for some reason. It's a very disjointed company, and if you want to follow everything that's happening in AEW, you have to pay super close attention. Right? It kind of does follow what AEW does. It's kind of all over the place sometimes.
Well, I feel the Big Show announcement, they did this, one, because it was taped tonight, AEW, right? They taped it last week, so they didn't have Big Show, right, because it was already taped, and this, I guess, just happened the last couple of days. And this was the hook to get people to watch the show, because the announcement of who Big Show was going to commentate with was going to be revealed on Dynamite, so you had to watch Dynamite to find out what was going to happen with Dark Elevation and when it would air. They said it would air on YouTube, but they didn't say the date, so there was the hook to watch the TV show, which that's the main thing, is to get people to watch the show.
Yeah, YouTube show, not a TV show, right?
No, the
Dark
TV
Elevation.
show, because the Big Show announcement was going to be on Dynamite, plus the announcement of Tony Schiavone with Big Show, plus the date announcement.
And Big Show, Paul Wight will be on AEW Dynamite next week. They have a big episode of Dynamite coming up. It's going to be The Crossroads. Whatever they have, like a pay-per-view style Dynamite, they always give it a name. This one's called The Crossroads. Cody Rhodes, of course, has a big match on it, teaming with Red Velvet to take on Shaq and Jade Cargill, which I'm pretty excited about. Just some bad news to throw out there. Anna Jay of the Dark Order, she is going to need some shoulder surgery. She's going to be out 6 to 12 months. So that's bad news for Anna Jay and all the Anna Jay Dark Order fans. Also, Hiromu Takahashi from New Japan Pro Wrestling, one of the best junior heavyweights in the world, one of the best wrestlers, really. He's got a torn pec. He's going to be out about 6 months. So a couple injuries to let you know about in the world of professional wrestling, just in case you were hoping for Hiromu in AEW, as I was. But unfortunately, we're not getting that, brother. What we are getting is a whole lot of Lance Archer. He qualified for the ladder match at Revolution, AEW Revolution, coming up in about a week, right? It's a week from Sunday. It'll be on the 7th of March. AEW usually doing their pay-per-views on Saturdays. This one on a Sunday. And it's coming up. Next week's Dynamite will be the final episode before the pay-per-view. Of course, that pay-per-view being sold by the exploding barbed wire death match for the AEW World Championship. Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. Jon Moxley opening the show tonight, getting the win over the Hollywood hunk Ryan Nemeth, getting the pinfall victory over Nemeth after the Paradigm Shift DDT. Short match. I thought it was fine. Did the trick. Good enhancement match for Jon Moxley going into a big title match on the pay-per-view. But by God, when I saw Jon Moxley was going to wrestle Ryan Nemeth, I was like, I have seen enough Jon Moxley versus Nemeth brothers matches for my liking. They did it to death in WWE. Dolph Ziggler and Dean Ambrose, by God, we saw that a lot. But this one was okay. Probably my favorite Moxley versus Nemeth brother match. So.
Well, it was short and to the point. I mean, I thought the promo was the main point of that, was him trying to put over the match. And I think it worked. Like, Moxley's good at doing promos. I mean, the match was very simple, but his promos are pretty good.
Yeah, I think his promos are pretty good. I like Ryan Nemeth. I think he's a talent. I think Moxley's promo was pretty good, too, there to promo the match, like you said. Moxley's promos are all right. They weren't, it's not anything crazy, but it was a pretty decent promo there. Talking about the exploding barbed wire match. Says he can't resist the match, even if it might be a trap by Kenny Omega and his boys. Moxley says when it's all said and done, he wants the fans to know that he gave them everything that he has. And if it is the end, then the exploding barbed wire match seems like a hell of a way to go out. Kind of teasing a retirement. We know he's got a baby on the way. We know his contract runs out with AEW, I think, next year. But I don't think anybody really expects Jon Moxley to retire, right? He kind of talked retirement-ish in that promo towards the end, but I don't see him going away anytime soon, right? He's in for the long haul. The guy's still, he's a young man, 35 years old. I mean, in pro wrestling, 35 years old is a baby. He's got at least 20 good years left, right? Look at Sting. Look at Big Show, who's coming in. Big Show's, like, not young.
No, but I think it's more him just selling the danger of this match, that this match can end your career kind of thing. And I think he's just selling the danger of that. And you want to talk about promos. I mean, like, AEW was much better in promos than NXT tonight. Like, I don't know if you watched NXT at the same time I did. And, like,
No.
oof, they need to work on the promos. Wrestling is good, but promos, a lot of work needs to be done there.
Yeah, I didn't watch NXT tonight. I know it's on Wednesday nights. I did record it. I'll watch it tomorrow. I was watching AEW tonight. I came into AEW like 15 minutes behind. Like I started the show at 8:15, and I start going on the PVR. And it's hard to catch up on AEW. With a WWE show, if you start 15 minutes behind, you'll be caught up by 9 o'clock, 8:45. Because there's so much filler. There's so much. Yeah, there's so much like previously on and earlier on. AEW doesn't do that much. They pack in a lot into a 2-hour show. So if you show up 15 minutes behind, you better hope for some long commercial breaks to be able to catch up. And I got to be here at 10 o'clock, right, to do the show with you. So I got to be able to get through AEW, so I don't have time to really be switching back and forth to NXT. I saw somebody was getting beat up in a parking lot. I'm not really sure who. I forget.
It was Escobar.
Whoever that is. Shout out to Douglas Hepburn. I know who that is. He is a member of the team. Craig Paquette as well. Angelo Contagonis. Shout out to all the members. We appreciate you guys being members. We appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Become a member and become a member of this YouTube channel. And you could also like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. When you subscribe, click the bell so you get notifications every time that we are on. And you could also go to donate.ringsidereport.net and merch.ringsidereport.net. We have merch. Go support us at merch.ringsidereport.net. You could also become a member of the team by going over to donate.ringsidereport.net. All right, so we had the Jon Moxley match. Then we had a Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley video package promoting the match. I thought the placement of this video package was odd, considering we just had Moxley talking about the match for so long. Why air the video package now? Why not kind of save it to later on in the show so that those people that aren't watching at the beginning of the show, maybe tuning in late, will still know that you have an exploding barbed wire match that's headlining your pay-per-view? Like, why put it all here? And I know that we had a Kenny promo later in the night, but what the hell was that? Let's get to that. Let's skip ahead to the Kenny promo while we're on the Kenny Moxley stuff. Kenny Omega and Don Callis are in some sort of workshop. There are guys working. They've got barbed wire attached to like pieces of wood, and Kenny apparently is like swinging a hammer wildly in a way that is just cartoonish, and you would never ever swing a hammer in that way. His mask, he's got a welding mask on, and it comes off, a face shield deal. It comes off as he's swinging the hammer. It's ridiculous. And then Don Callis cuts a promo about all the stuff that they're doing to prepare for the Jon Moxley match, and Kenny's there and he's talking. It was kind of like when Undertaker would build the casket for his opponents before the casket match. Kenny was like building the bomb and exploding barbed wire devices for Moxley, but I don't know. I didn't think that was a very good promo. I thought it was a little cartoonish, especially compared to what you had with Moxley, which was a very straightforward, serious presentation. And then you have the Kenny and Don Callis thing where it's kind of jokey. And like, why is Kenny in a workshop? Why is he building this stuff? And also, those guys in the background who were using the power tools, couldn't they stop while Kenny's talking because they couldn't hear him? As soon as that guy started going with the saw or whatever it was, I don't know power tools, all right? As soon as he started going with that gimmick, I was like, I can't hear Kenny. Promo sucked.
Well, the only thing I took off of that positively was the fact that apparently there's going to be landmines around the ring, so they're pretty much going to keep it in the ring, so that's entertaining.
Landmines. I mean, I don't know what to expect from this barbed wire death match, whatever. It's, who knows? I'm looking forward to the pay-per-view. And I don't think that this match is going to be particularly good. I'm not looking forward to it because I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a train wreck, and I want to see what they're going to do. And it could be some good violence. I mean, I like good violence just as much as the next guy. Little blood, little guts, people exploding. Who doesn't like people exploding? You know? As long as they're really exploding. I've seen some of those matches in Japan. Those guys really explode. Those guys really, cut each other open on that barbed wire. And I'll tell you, a lot of those guys who do that kind of deathmatch stuff, they do it because they're not really good wrestlers, right? But these are two good wrestlers doing some of this deathmatch stuff, which it could turn out pretty good. You know, it could be the greatest deathmatch of all time, or it could be a total embarrassment to AEW. Not sure. What do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be good or bad? Like, I'm on the fence as to whether or not it's going to be like this beautiful display of violence that totally kicks ass, or it's going to be this terrible train wreck where you're like, God damn, why are they letting these guys run their own show? I'm not sure. Like, I'm totally on the fence. My brain says it's going to be a mess, but my heart says, man, Kenny might be able to pull it off, baby. What do you think, John?
Well, I don't agree with your philosophy where it's like, you're a bad wrestler. That's why you do this kind of match. I mean, Terry Funk used to do those kind of matches.
Okay, I'm not saying... John, you know the majority of deathmatch wrestlers aren't Bret Hart, okay? You can pull Terry Funk or Mick Foley out of the air, but I'm not going to name names because I don't want to say bad things about certain wrestlers, but certain wrestlers do that kind of stuff because that's all they can do. Like, Sandman was no great technical wrestler. Even Sandman will tell you.
I don't believe Sandman was in these kind of matches, though.
Well,
but
I mean, he did that type of stuff, John. You get the point.
He did hardcore stuff, sure.
Deathmatch,
sure.
hardcore,
And the main thing is the fact these guys haven't been in this kind of match either. So that's the interesting part is, like, what can they pull off in this kind of match? They're both very creative, so it's going to be very interesting to see what they can do.
Yeah. I'm saying that generally deathmatch wrestlers aren't at the caliber of a Jon Moxley or especially a Kenny Omega athletically, right? Can you give me that?
The main thing is I can give you the fact that they probably don't think in terms of like match psychology as much as these guys do. They were just thinking more towards violence, where
Bingo.
I'm sure these guys are going to think violence, but I think they're also going to think more in terms of psychology because they got to tell a story. It's on pay-per-view.
Total lack of psychology here from AEW. They have Lance Archer and Rey Fenix backstage being interviewed at the same time about their match later that night. And then, of course, they brawl. Does AEW not understand that when you have two guys that are supposed to wrestle each other, you're supposed to interview them separately? What was that? I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but it's just like, come on, man. Really?
Well, that was a promo that they filmed after Dynamite went off the air last Wednesday, and that's after they were teaming together, where they just kind of sprung it on them kind of thing, where it's like, well, you guys are wrestling each other next week, so that's why.
I wasn't clear when they had filmed that promo. I guess they had it on the screen for a second, but like...
Yeah.
You know?
I can understand how it's going to be kind of confusing, because, things happen kind of fast. You're kind of right. Dynamite's so fast-paced, like, if you blink, you kind of miss something.
Yeah. Except in the next segment where the Young Bucks are shown arriving at the arena with their parents, and they take a picture next to the AEW truck with the Bucks on them, which was an exact recreation from a scene from Being the Elite where they did that for real, and it wasn't a recreation, and it actually had some emotion to it, and their father was actually crying because he saw his sons on a truck, and he felt like, oh, wow, this is cool, they've made it. But instead of just taking that little segment from BTE, that little part, they decided to show it again. They decided to just do it again on Dynamite. And it felt rehearsed. It felt staged. It didn't feel emotional. And if you saw BTE, which a lot of people do watch BTE. You know, if you're watching AEW, chances are you're watching Being the Elite. I know not everybody that watches AEW watches Being the Elite. I watch it. Johnny doesn't. But, you know, we still saw this exact segment on Being the Elite, and it was a shoot there. Here we saw it, and it was a work, and it just kind of sucked. But I know for you, John, it was new for you, right?
Yeah, it was new, but it was still like a kind of a nothing kind of thing. Because, like, okay, well, I took a photo. Whoop-de-doo. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. But, of course, it would become a bigger deal later on in the night, and we'll get to that. Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Now, this, I don't know about you, John. I liked the main event. But for me, this was the match of the night. Brian Cage and Ricky Starks over the Varsity Blondes. These guys had a kick-ass tag team match. I was super impressed with everybody in this match. I was more impressed with Griff Garrison than I have ever been. I was more impressed with Ricky Starks than I have ever been. I became a bigger fan of everybody in this match after this match. I mean, Brian Cage kind of stayed the same. I like Brian Cage, but, like, you know, he was there. But Ricky Starks and the Varsity Blondes had a tremendous performance in this match. And that sit-down pile driver move that Brian Cage hits at the end, like, that's one of the best finishers in all of professional wrestling. I don't care what you say. You look at that finisher, good God almighty, looks like it kills a guy every time. Right? Is there a better finishing move than Brian Cage's like sit-down powerbomb thing right now in professional wrestling on weekly TV? Is there a better finishing move? One move.
It's not a sit-down powerbomb. It's like a sit-down like screwdriver suplex.
Pile driver. Like sit-down pile driver. It's like a sit-down pile driver, isn't it?
It's like what Scott Steiner used to do.
Yeah. Good God. I don't know. I mean, Kenny's One-Winged Angel is pretty cool. I'm partial to Naito's Destino. I think that's one of the most beautiful finishing moves in all of pro wrestling. I'm trying to think of a WWE move. I mean, the RKO, of course, classic. The Styles Clash as well, beautiful. You know, there's some nice finishing moves in pro wrestling. But that Brian Cage sit-down pile driver, it looks like it kills you every time. Good God almighty. I thought that match was great. You know what my favorite part of that match was? Ricky Starks gets shot off the ropes. Brian Pillman Jr. does a drop down. Ricky Starks trips over him and falls out of the ring. He actually sold a drop down. One of the most commonly used moves in all of professional wrestling. And no one ever sells it. No one ever gets hit by it. You see guys do it constantly in every wrestling promotion you ever see. Shoot the guy off the ropes. Drop down. He jumps over you. A drop down, for those that don't know, you lay flat on your belly. You've seen wrestlers do it over and over again to try and trip the wrestler. The idea is you're trying to trip the wrestler who's coming off the ropes, except no one ever gets tripped. So why does anybody ever do it? Right? I mean, that's the spot, right? Drop down, leapfrog, tackle. Drop down, leapfrog, punch. You know what I mean? Right? You see that constantly.
Something like that. Yeah.
Drop down, leapfrog, hit you with something. Or drop down, leapfrog, go into another sequence. Right? It's very, like, typical pro wrestler. Right? It's like basic kind of wrestling school 101. I don't know. I've never been to wrestling school, Johnny. You have. You tell me.
No, you're pretty much right. It's the basic kind of thing where it could go to many different things, but for the most part, it's the basic stuff, yeah.
Drop down, leapfrog, something, right? So the drop down is just kind of a setup, but it's like, why does anybody do it if it never actually works? And here, Ricky Starks stumbled out of the ring after a drop down. Can't really ask for much more. I like that. I like that stuff. Realistic-looking professional wrestling. That dive that Griff Garrison hit where he just jumped over the top rope, Griff Garrison's like 6'3". He's a big guy. It's a good tag team.
Yeah.
You know, I love that match. I can't say enough good things about all four of those guys. Tremendous. What was your match of the night?
I really think. Well, we're not counting NXT, right? So we're only counting Dynamite.
No, no, no. I didn't see NXT.
For going Dynamite, I think it would have to be the main event. I mean, this match was very good too, because like I thought you pretty much saw like the future of wrestling in this kind of match. And the main event they did more in the main event. You know, there was just much more that they pulled off. It was a longer match too, so I mean that main event was so hard hitting, very intense. Some moments in that match, like the tag was good. It just if they had more time, maybe I'd say that was the match of the night. But I think the main event was because wow, like Ray Phoenix, man, incredible. I mean Archer as well, but man, Ray Phoenix. Outstanding. Every time you see him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very tough guy, and he's very impressive, and he hits a lot of really big moves. And so is Lance Archer. You know? But I liked the match, but I didn't love that match. I felt like it was just like, all right, everybody's going to get their shit in. Everybody's going to get every single move that they have in. And that's the point of the match.
That was a bit more than that because I felt like Ray Phoenix. It was more to just kind of prove that yeah, he's fighting a monster, but he can still like fight a monster and possibly win. He didn't win, but he made you believe he could win, and I think that was the point of it, was to show that he can compete with the top guys.
This match was a qualifying match. The winner qualifies for a ladder match at Revolution. The winner of that ladder match gets a title shot against the TNT champion Darby Allin. I didn't feel the sense of urgency between Lance Archer and Ray Phoenix to win. I didn't feel like they were hitting each other with a lot of stuff, but like a lot of it was outside of the ring. No guy really seemed to want to win the match. They just seemed to want to kind of hit a bunch of impressive moves. I don't know. I thought it was good, and they do hit impressive moves, and I think they're both great, but I don't know. I thought we had better matches tonight. I thought this was a good match, probably the second best match of the night, but it wasn't my favorite. I don't know.
Well, that's fair. It's fine. Like, I see your point on that one. It's just the way I saw it was just that Archer, I thought, was kind of maybe a bit too cocky at first, using Jake to help him kind of win the match at first, and then once Phoenix started fighting back, he got a little bit more anxious, and then like he started getting a little bit worried, and then suddenly it's like, okay, now I have to really turn it up here because if I don't, he's going to beat me, kind of thing. That's the way I felt like, to me, the story was being told.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't bad. I just I don't know, man. I felt like Archer was playing too much of like, I'm just going to beat up Ray Phoenix.
Right? Yeah, he was.
It was just a lot of that and not a lot of like, hey, this is a main event match where the winner has something on the line. It didn't feel like it was urgent to win. Elsewhere here on the card, we had the Darby Allin deal, which was something. Darby Allin video plays after the match. It's Sting on the video screen, so the Brian Cage-Ricky Starks match happens, and they're still in the ring. They beat the Varsity Blondes. Sting is driving a pickup truck that's dragging a body bag with Darby Allin in it. And then Sting comes out dragging a body bag. He comes out into the arena. And you think, oh, well, Darby's in the body bag, right? Because he was just on the video screen in a pickup truck dragging a body bag with Darby in it. So you thought, it's just Darby in a body bag. But no, it's Taz's son, Hook, which was kind of a shocker. And yeah, and Taz is on commentary. He couldn't believe it. Sting then points to the rafters. Darby Allin comes in on a zip line to attack Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. Sting hits the ring, does a couple punches and kicks to Cage. Darby dives on Starks, which allows Sting to have the ring. He hits the Stinger Splash and Scorpion Death Drop on Brian Cage. Hits his signature maneuvers and stands tall with his buddy Darby. That's quite a segment. Taz's son getting kidnapped and possibly beaten by Sting. Darby Allin coming in on a zip line. I don't like wrestlers coming in from the ceiling. I still don't like it. ever since the Owen Hart thing, it's just like, anytime a guy comes in from the ceiling, I get a little uneasy. Because you know it can go very wrong. But it went fine for Darby. He came in and he was all right. And he beat up Ricky Starks. I thought the segment was fun. Like, I didn't hate it. You know? We had a match, and then, of course, we had a segment after the match. I don't think AEW ever does a match with just, like, a match. It's always a match and then something, right? Like, it was Moxley's match and then a Moxley promo. It's the Cage and Starks match against Varsity Blondes and then a big promo with Sting and Darby. It's the Hager and Cutler match and then, like, a huge promo and thing with Jericho and the Bucks. Do we have one single match? No. There wasn't a single match that we had, except for the main event, which, like, you can't really do something after that because it's the main event. Although sometimes they still manage to do, like, a thing after. The Nyla Britt didn't have a post-match promo or anything. That was just a match. But a lot of times in AEW, because they're cramming so much into one show, they have, like, a match and then a promo because they're really trying to push that story forward because they have a big roster and only 2 hours of TV for your main storylines, and they have a pay-per-view coming up, not to mention the pay-per-view. I thought the Sting promo, Sting thing, Sting whatever beating was good. I like seeing Stinger still walking around, hitting a Stinger splash, hitting the death drop, although he did seem quite tired afterwards. Did he not? Did he not seem, like, totally out of breath and blown up?
You know, he seemed like that affected him a bit. I wouldn't say he was, like, totally blown up and, like, out of breath, but, you know, it's something different for him. I'm sure he's not in the ring that much. I mean, we haven't seen him ever, like, actually that physical except for the power bomb, so all this is new stuff, but it's interesting to see what Sting is doing now and makes you wonder now if that street fight will be cinematic or not.
No, I think it's going to be a real match. I think it's going to be a street fight, and it could get violent. I think it's going to be more violent than you expect. I think Sting is going to take more than you expect. If Sting took that death powerbomb from Brian Cage as just a way to promote the match, he's got to take more in the match itself. So, and you know Darby's going to take everything. He's teaming with Sting. He is expected to be the bumper of the team, and he doesn't mind taking some crazy bumps. And he's teaming with Sting, so, you know, it's a big spot for him. It's going to be wild, this match. I think Darby and Sting, I mean, they may not survive. It may be Sting's one and only match in AEW.
I kind of hope not. I hope this is only the start of many more to come, actually.
I hope so, too. For Sting's sake, I don't want him to get hurt. I liked his little thing here. He's elevating talent, man. He's making Team Taz look good. Like, Team Taz was kind of an aimless group. Their feud with Darby Allin was like, not really going anywhere. Sting gets injected into it. All of a sudden, it has life, right? Team Taz is interesting now. Darby Allin is more interesting. Sting is doing a good job in AEW. He's elevating some of this younger talent that needs elevating. So far, despite the fact that he's 61 and it's like, really, Sting? I think he's doing a good job. I can't really complain about what he's done. I mean, for a while there, he just kind of showed up in the snow and looked at people. But now he's getting physical, and it's getting a little better. I thought it was a good promo tonight. Good little segment. Tony Schiavone, this was a weird one. Tony Schiavone interviews Miro, Kip, and Penelope backstage. Miro says he's got no problem beating up Orange Cassidy, but he doesn't want to hurt Charles. He says he likes Chuck Taylor. He grew to really like him, and he was a really good butler, and he says that Charles can come home anytime he wants. He doesn't want to hurt Charles. He just wants to hurt Orange. And then Tony has a note that he gives to Miro that says, "Will you wrestle us at Revolution? Yes, no, circle one." It's kind of like a childhood, like a school note that you would pass, around. And Miro sees this as this is childish. Charles, you need to leave Orange so you can be a man and stop this nonsense. they didn't accept the challenge, but I assume it's going to be Kip and Miro versus Orange and Chuck Taylor at Revolution. But I liked Miro the way he's approaching this. You know, he's not mad at Chuck Taylor. He thinks that Orange is just an embarrassment, and that Chuck Taylor should leave Orange and join him. And maybe he will. Probably not.
I don't know. I'm not really that excited by this. I think Miro is kind of being a little too foolish. Like, he should just be more of that dominating force. Like, when he's in the ring, like, he seems like he's a monster. But when he talks, he seems like he's a child.
I thought that was one of Miro's best promos from AEW. I really did. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's not saying much, though, unfortunately.
No, it's not. But at least it was kind of like, oh, that's an interesting wrinkle in the storyline I wasn't expecting. I expected Miro to be like, oh, you ruined the wedding, I'm going to get you. But it was just like, oh, Orange, you know, he's the bad influence. He's ridiculous. He's a child. Come back to me, Charles. I love you. You know, it was different. Jake Hager wrestles Brandon Cutler. Of course, Hager wins. Gets the pinfall after a running clothesline. How's that for a finishing move? A clothesline beat Brandon Cutler. Which, I mean, yeah, it's Brandon Cutler. Jake Hager shouldn't have to hit anything more impressive than a running clothesline. But still, when's the last time a TV wrestling match ended via running clothesline? Not since JBL, I don't think, right? Is Hager trying to bring back the running lariat as a finisher? JBL brought it back with a clothesline from hell. Is Hager trying to bring it back, or is just like, it's Brandon Cutler, I just beat him with a clothesline, ha 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 ha.
Well, I feel Hager's that kind of guy where it's like if he just hits a big move on certain guys, he should just win. In those kind of matches, if you're wrestling a guy like Cutler, like, yeah, he should definitely just win like that. And when he wrestles like in a bigger match, when he hits a move like that, people might think, you know what, it might be over there. It won't be, but it adds more interest to Hager actually by doing that.
I thought the match was okay. It did its job. It wasn't too long. Doug Hepburn on the chat wants to know, Johnny, how many times did you check yes in grade school?
I never got any notes. Nobody liked me, so.
Oh.
There you go. Sad, depressing world that we live in. Jeez. Reality sucks. Like Archer says, everyone dies.
I have to check yes a couple of times. Sometimes you have to check that no, too. You know what I'm saying? Come on, John. What's happening? Sad,
I never got a note. I'm sorry. Nobody liked me, man. Too bad.
You should have hung out. Too bad we weren't in grade school together, man, because, you know, it would have been a different story for you.
You hate the country.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to. I mean, I don't hate the country. I'm not from the country. And you are. And it didn't go so well. Maybe if you were in the city, some of those young ladies would have been more. Anyways, Santana, Ortiz, and Wardlow came out to beat up Brandon Cutler after the match. Of course, Cutler is a buddy of the Bucks. So the Bucks come out to take out Santana, Ortiz, and Wardlow with super kicks. Hager avoided the double super kick, but it was kind of weird. It almost looked like he bumped, but the kicks landed nowhere near him. But then it was kind of clear that he was just he just kind of fell on his butt to roll out of the ring and avoid the kicks. But JR reacted like, oh, Jake. Like, JR reacted like, oh, man, you bumped way too early on those kicks. And then the commentary, I think Excalibur or Shivani was like, no, he was trying to avoid the kicks, JR. And JR was like, oh, okay, I guess. You notice that? That was funny.
Well, what threw JR off, and I think what threw off a lot of people, was the fact that the Bucks still slapped their legs even though they missed.
Did they?
So I think it threw. Yeah, they did, and it was so loud that it made it seem like they kicked, because like if you see it from a certain angle, that's why. So, you know, maybe people, if they slap, they shouldn't slap when they're supposed to miss. That might be an idea.
Can they not throw super kicks without slapping their leg? Is it not possible for them? Do they not have the ability to throw a kick without slapping the leg? Is it something in the mechanics of their kick? Like when they know it's not going to connect, Or maybe they thought it was going to connect, but Hager was too far away, and then he just kind of bailed on it. It looked bad. It looked bad. Hager should have taken the kicks. Why does Hager escape? Santana, Ortiz, and Wardlow all get kicks. Hager's like, nope. Ooh.
What's the worst part is it's a tape show. I mean, you could have fixed that in editing somehow, right? Like, at least the sound part anyways.
The worst part is still to come, John, because Matt Jackson calls out MJF and Chris Jericho to the ring. MJF, of course, don't come to the ring. They appear on the big screen. They're backstage near the trucks with the Young Bucks faces on them. And Jericho and MJF have the Young Bucks' father, and he's unconscious and bleeding. I have never...
Mouth open.
What does that mean, mouth open?
Yeah, it's just interesting that his mouth is just open like that, like it's like he's dying or something, or he already died. His eyes are closed, mouth open.
Have you ever seen a man with that much blood on his face with absolutely zero visible cuts? I haven't.
Look like ketchup.
It looked like ketchup. It didn't even look like fake blood. It just looked like straight up ketchup on his face. They're just like, oh, do we have fake blood? No. Well, let's just put ketchup. No one will notice. It's just 4K television, it's just very obvious. So the Bucks' father has all sorts of ketchup on his face. He's supposed to be beaten, bloodied, and unconscious by Jericho and MJF. Jericho calls him a son of a bitch as he throws him into the truck face first to make sure he gets all the blood, ketchup, on Nick Jackson's image on the truck. And then MJF throws him in the truck so he can smear blood on the Matt Jackson image on the truck. The Bucks run backstage. Of course, they're too late. They find their father beaten. Jericho and MJF already in an SUV. Matt Jackson tries to give chase, but they drive away. And the Bucks are left sad and beaten. Their father loaded into an ambulance. I found it very strange that Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, their only appearance on this show, was going into the ambulance with Papa Buck and Nick Jackson to go to the hospital. Matt Jackson stays behind for some reason. Why does Matt Jackson not go? He said something about going to find their mom, so I guess that was the reason that they gave, even though it was very brief and not clear. But why the hell are Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows going when Nick Jackson with their father to the hospital when, Anderson and Gallows are kind of like, are they friends? Are they not with the Bucks? I thought that was a weird little move. I guess over time it'll become clear why they were there. But that whole segment was a little, I say it all the time. Don't do fake stuff on a show that people already call fake. Don't do stuff that's obviously fake on a show that people already think is totally fake. The general population, the non-wrestling fans see wrestling as phony, whatever. If you're not a wrestling fan, you think wrestling's fake, phony, whatever, fighting, right? So when you tune in and you're not a wrestling fan, you haven't already bought into this, right? You haven't bought into professional wrestling as a concept. You're going to try it out, and you see a man with ketchup on his head. Are you going to come back? You might say, oh, that Lance Archer and Ray Phoenix, those guys, they beat the shit out of each other. That was something. Oh, Shaq is going to wrestle next week. Maybe I'll tune in. I like Shaq, maybe, But then they see a guy with ketchup on his face. Or they see, Apollo Crews last week on SmackDown throwing stairs on Big E, and Big E's obviously not there. Don't do fake shit on a show that people already think is fake. Don't give them the reason to say, oh, what the hell is this? That's ketchup, man. It's so stupid. Why are you watching this shit? It's embarrassing for wrestling fans, and it's embarrassing for wrestling. You got to make it look as real as possible because everybody at this point knows it's a work. You got to try to make it look as genuine and real as possible to try and hook people in and get them to believe. Because everybody knows it's a work. So you got to do things, you got to sprinkle things in that make people go, okay, all that stuff is fake, but this is real. And they're not saying that about the Jericho, MJF, and Young Bucks feud because they know that the Young Bucks' father is just going along with the story. He didn't really get hurt. He wasn't really bleeding. He's acting, and it was ketchup. It's not good.
No, you're right. I mean, it's a big show that has a lot of money behind it. You would think that they'd be able to afford something that looks better. You know, the production value looks good, but they can't produce apparently blood that looks good. That's a fault on them. You know, that's just it just makes it look weak when it shouldn't be. It's something that they should fix on. And in the end, they just need to be better overall.
I agree. Everybody needs to be better overall. All of professional wrestling needs to be better overall. But hey, I guess you can't spend the money on fake blood when you just signed Big Show and Sting. Big money going there, right? Tony Khan doesn't have unlimited funds, or Tony Khan's dad doesn't have unlimited funds, I don't think. Although he is a billionaire, but like, eventually, a lot of people are billionaires. I mean, how many billion? How many billion? He's got several sports franchises as well. He's got a soccer team, a football team. How long is this money? I'm assuming very long. Douglas Hepburn says Daddy Buck kind of resembles Ricky's dad, Ray, from the Trailer Park Boys. He does kind of look like Ray. Fucking way she goes, boys. He does look a bit
Not
like
the
Ray.
hair.
No.
Not the hair at all.
No, I guess Ray has better hair.
Ray was also kind of chubby.
Yeah. Don't say anything bad about Ray, okay? I love Ray. All right, Cody, and don't say anything bad about Jade Cargill either. Jade Cargill and Shaq. There was a promo video that aired. The commentary team was interviewed about the match next week. Cody and Red Velvet versus Jade Cargill and Shaq. Jim Ross thinks Shaq and Jade will win. We'll give you our thoughts in a couple minutes here. Hangman Page beat Isaiah Cassidy via pinfall. I thought the match was good, but it went a little too long. I thought Isaiah got a little too much over on Hangman. Hangman's supposed to be your future world champion, your future top star, one of the top stars in the main event singles division right now. And, you know, Isaiah Cassidy is a tag team guy. An underneath tag team guy who's not, you know, he's not a main event tag teamer. They haven't been tag team champions. They're just kind of there. They couldn't even win the Impact Tag Team titles, and Isaiah Cassidy's going to get that much over on Hangman. I don't know. I thought it was a little too much. Match was a little too long. I thought Hangman should have, like, you know, earlier in the night, you know, Moxley over Nemeth. Solid, you know, that's how you make a guy look good. Hager over Cutler. Solid. That's how you make a guy look good. This, I didn't think Hangman looked that good.
Well, this was, in my opinion, this was Isaiah Cassidy's best match I've ever seen him in AEW. Like, I think that was just to show that, yeah, I mean, tag wrestler for the most part, but he can still actually have a good match. And, like, I didn't think he could have that good of a match. So that was really eye-opening that he could be in that kind of position. Plus the fact that he had so much backup that was kind of distracting Hangman that it was somewhat believable that it could last that long. It was very long, probably a little too long, but still, like, it kind of showed you how, like, amazing Hangman is right now. It feels like everything he touches right now is, like, golden. Like, he's, like, the best thing to watch right now in AEW.
Hangman's great. I love Hangman. He's the best, right? Hangman, okay? Hangman. You can see I love Hangman. Look at this. That's a nice one. It's hard to find these things, okay? Got a whole shipment of these bad boys. What do you think of that, Johnny? Hangman. I love Hangman.
So
okay?
you got Darby Allin.
I got Darby. I got Hangman. I got this guy. Look at that. That's Ray Phoenix, baby. Oh, yeah. I got them all. I got Ray Phoenix. I got Pentagon. I got Riho. I got everybody, baby. Orange. Got an Orange Cassidy. Got a lot of AEW toys for my son. He doesn't know about these yet. Don't tell him, okay? I got a box of like 6 of them today, and I gave him the Darby because Darby's his favorite wrestler pretty much. So I gave him the Darby, but these other ones, these are just for the show right now, but he'll get them eventually. Over time, I sprinkle new wrestlers into his collection. You can't give him 6 wrestlers in one day. It's overkill. He's just, you can't spoil the guy. You got to, sprinkle it over time, okay? It's dad stuff, Johnny. This is dad strategy, okay? So, Hangman, my man Hangman, he beats Isaiah Cassidy. The match goes too long, and you say, he was at a disadvantage. Matt Hardy was there. He starts, he attacks Hangman while TH2 distracted the ref. But as soon as that happened, Johnny Hungy and Alex Reynolds come out from the Dark Order. They tell the ref, Matt Hardy gets ejected from ringside, and I guess TH2 was still there in Isaiah Cassidy's corner, but they didn't do anything for the rest of the match. So you say Hangman was at a disadvantage, but as soon as his numbers disadvantage ended, the match still went on for like 10 minutes. As soon as Matt Hardy got ejected from ringside, Hangman should have gone into the finish and won. But that didn't happen. Matt Hardy got ejected. Isaiah Cassidy's advantage was gone, yet he still had a competitive match with Hangman that Hangman barely won. If Hangman can barely beat Isaiah Cassidy, why are we supposed to believe that he's going to beat Matt Hardy at the pay-per-view? And he will, right? He will. But it won't make that much sense because, Isaiah's kind of Matt's second guy, and Matt's kind of like the big boss that Hangman has to face at the pay-per-view. If you struggle with the mini-boss, if you can't beat Baby Bowser, how are you supposed to beat Bowser in the end? Doesn't make sense.
Sometimes the mini-bosses can be harder than the actual boss, though. It happens many times.
Don't bring video game logic into this.
I'm just saying it's them trying to push Isaiah Cassidy, like trying to show that he's more than just like an enhancement guy, like more than just a tag team guy. Yeah. Like he could actually give Hangman a run for his money. Like they want you to look at him in a different light.
Hangman. Gotta love Hangman. Gotta love Hangman Page. And after the match, Matt Hardy starts talking about Hangman, says he's going to hurt everybody that he loves. He brings out 5 Allen 5 Angels, tosses them off the stage and through a table. 5. But if you watch Being the Elite, you know that the Dark Order doesn't care about 5. He's the least important member of the Dark Order. Fuck you, 5. I'm happy that that happened to 5. If it was Johnny Hungy that went through the table, then I would be sad. But 5. Fuck 5. Everybody hates 5. Right? You know that. Well, we all know that.
I think Matt Hardy's got to go after -1. That's what's going to get him the heat.
Oh, my God,
so
no.
That's
week. Terrible. That's not going to happen. That's awful, John. He's a child. He should go after Johnny Hungy. Johnny Hungy is beloved. You go after him, you leave him beaten and bloodied. That's where you get your heat. Johnny Hungy. Again, not enough Johnny Hungy on the show tonight. Not nearly enough Johnny Hungy on the show tonight. He was on the show. He came out, did a little thing, and then just stood there watching Hangman wrestle. That's it. Didn't talk, didn't wrestle. Another week where Johnny Hungy doesn't talk, doesn't wrestle. Give this guy a microphone every week. What are we doing here? I really don't get it. He's so over. Yeah, you see him every week, but, come on, man. Couldn't we do more with Hungy? You see him, but, in little spurts. He's very talented. He's one of my favorite guys in all of AEW. He's very over. Everybody loves him. We want to see more Hungy, okay? More Hungy. What else happened on this show? Nyla Rose beat Britt Baker. Nyla hit the Beast Bomb to advance in the women's tournament. I thought the match was all right, but it was a little bit of a weird story. Britt was the cowardly heel who was, running away from Nyla, and then eventually she kind of, fought from underneath. She went from cowardly heel to, sympathetic babyface fighting the monster all in the same match, and then she lost.
Yeah.
It's weird, right?
Well, this is the problem when you have heel versus heel. They're both jerks, and they both try to one-up each other kind of thing in a jerky kind of way. So it kind of comes off kind of weird. I feel like there's been better matches, too, and, you didn't even get to see some of these matches because they're only airing on YouTube. The match that Rose had with Ty Conti, I think, was much better than this match. And more than likely, Thunder Rosa versus Rio will be much better than this match, too. So I question why this match made Dynamite when others didn't.
I don't know. This whole tournament is bizarre. I can't really understand when the matches are, where the matches are. At first they were on Dynamite and YouTube. Now they're on Dynamite, YouTube, and Bleacher Report, whatever that is.
Well, that's how you can get the pay-per-view. So I think that's probably they're doing some sort of deal with that.
So Thunder Rosa, okay, so in this tournament, Thunder Rosa is going to wrestle Riho in the quarterfinals at some point. When is that happening?
I believe it's going to be sometime this week or next week, whatever.
I think it's this week. It's February 22nd, 24th, and 28th on Bleacher Report. Maybe it'll be on Bleacher Report on the 28th. I don't know. That's the problem, man. I can't follow this damn tournament that they're doing. So the winner of Thunder Rosa and Riho will take on Nyla Rose. I'm going to say Riho wins that. I think Riho probably, I don't know. Maybe Nyla. Thunder and Riho, the winner of that faces Nyla. Nyla beat Britt Baker tonight to advance into the semifinals of the tournament. On the other bracket, the Japanese side, Yuka Sakazaki beat Emi Sakura this week to advance in the tournament. She'll take on Ryo Mizunami, who got a victory over Aja Kong. So it'll be Yuka Sakazaki versus Ryo Mizunami, and then Nyla Rose versus either Thunder Rose and Riho. And then the winner of that match, the winner of those two matches, will face off next week on Dynamite on the finals of this tournament. So the finals will take place on Dynamite. It'll either be Riho or Nyla Rose versus Yuka Sakazaki or Ryo Mizunami. The winner of that will go on to the March 7th pay-per-view to take on the champion, Hikaru Shida. Any guesses on who's winning this thing? I'd go with Riho at this point. Riho versus Shida at the pay-per-view.
Well, I say don't count out the Japanese bracket because, like, they did that for a reason, right? And for them not to win in the end would kind of be kind of weird. Like, you think they're building towards something with that, and it's a fresh match for Shida, right? Because all the other matches she's pretty much done besides Rio. And I feel like Thunder Rose is going to win that one, so I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm thinking more towards the Japanese bracket. Unless Thunder Rosa wins, but I feel like they always screw her over in the end for some stupid reason.
So then you're going to have some unknown Japanese woman taking on Shida at the pay-per-view?
Yeah.
Boo. I don't want to see that.
Well, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing, but if it's not going to be Thunder Rosa, why not something different? I mean, who's booking this?
Kenny Omega?
And, like, what does he like? Like, he likes to book Japanese women wrestlers.
They've done Shida versus Riho before?
You know, maybe in tags or something, like the early days of AEW. Maybe I think there was a light confrontation, perhaps, but that was about it, though.
I feel like that's the match to make, man. The two, major champions of that division. Shida's held it longer than anybody else. Riho was a champion she was the first champion, right?
She was.
I've got a Riho action figure, and she's got the AEW women's belt with her as an accessory.
Mm-hmm.
I think Riho is probably a safe bet to make it to the finals, but we'll see next week. Speaking of next week, there's going to be the AEW Dynamite Crossroads edition. It will be Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet versus Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill. It is happening on Dynamite live next week. Live. Jade Cargill and Shaq in a wrestling ring live. JR thinks they're going to lose. What do you think, Johnny?
When you say lose, he thinks that Cody and Red Velvet are going to lose. And I agree with him, too. Because I believe the finish is going to come down to either Cargill and Red Velvet. And if that's the case, I think they're pushing Cargill more than they're pushing Red Velvet. So, yeah, they're going to win.
Yep.
Cargill and Shaq.
Yeah, I think Cody's going on a little bit of a losing streak. You know, Arn Anderson kind of did a little bit of foreshadowing there, said Cody was not focused. Cody was not really, on his game. Arn seemed a little disappointed with Cody when he did that promo a couple weeks ago and Red Velvet showed up and showed all that fire. I feel like Cody's going to go on a little losing skid. I don't think he wins that ladder match at Revolution, and I do think that they're going to lose their tag team match against Shaq and Jade Cargill. Who knows what that match is going to be? It could be a total mess, right? Shaq is not a wrestler. Jade Cargill has not wrestled before, as far as we know. Maybe a couple training matches, but anybody seen her work the indies? Like, has Jade Cargill wrestled before?
The only wrestling I've seen of her was that video package they did where I think she did a couple moves. So it's going to be interesting to see what she can pull off. I mean, that's kind of the excitement of this match, is the unknown. What can they do?
Mako8033 brings up an interesting point. Why does AEW have win-loss records when title shots are awarded in stipulation matches or tournaments? When's the last time a number one contender got a title match? Do they still have the win-loss records? I know they show them once in a while, but it is true. Like, when they started this, it seemed like the win-loss records, the rankings of the wrestlers and all that. Remember they had rankings every week that they would show you? When's the last time they showed you rankings?
They haven't shown us that, but they still have the win-loss records. And I think they actually still have the rankings. But the thing is, like, when you have two singles champions, it's not necessarily the number one contender is going to face, like, both champions, right? So, like, with the TNT title, it's kind of hard where it's like, really, it's just a top contender would face the champion, or just they do open challenge kind of thing where it's like, I'll face anybody kind of thing. That's what the TNT title's pretty much been. Where I feel like with the world, they're almost pretty consistent with that. It's going to be the top contender, or like they've earned it like through like an eliminator tournament kind of thing. Like, I'm pretty sure Moxley has to be ranked number one because like he wins all the time.
That's it. It makes sense for Moxley to get the title shot. It's not like people that get title shots, you're kind of like, why is he getting a title shot? Although when Eddie Kingston got a title shot, it was kind of a head-scratcher. But hey, that
was, again, one of those, like, oh, I challenge you kind of thing,
right.
I accept kind of thing. Yeah, it's one of those ones, yeah.
Didn't seem to make sense at the time, but Moxley getting the shot here at Kenny at the pay-per-view does make a lot of sense. In an exploding barbed wire death match. I just like saying that. FTR and Tully Blanchard will wrestle the Jurassic Express in a 6-man tag next week on Dynamite. They are really pulling out all the stops before the pay-per-view. This is going to be a hell of a go-home show. It's almost like they're doing 2 pay-per-views. This is like a mini pay-per-view before the pay-per-view. FTR and Tully versus Jurassic Express. Jericho and MJF will have a press conference. Paul Wight, the Big Show, is going to make his first appearance on Dynamite. Shaq and Jade Cargill wrestling Cody and Red Velvet. Like, this is a pretty big event. We'll also have Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, 5, Johnny Hungy, and Alex Reynolds taking on Matt Hardy, Private Party, and TH2, a big 10-man tag, the Dark Order versus the Matt Hardy team. That's not bad. Go Dark Order. Johnny Hungy in a match. Thank you. They got to save him for the big episodes of Dynamite, Johnny Hungy only wrestles on the big episodes of Dynamite and Dark as well. I think they had a match on Dark this week.
I actually missed Dark this week, so.
What? So, Pentagon, Lance Archer, Cody Rhodes, and Scorpio Sky have all qualified for the AEW Revolution ladder match. How many guys are supposed to be in this ladder match? 10 of the Dark Order will wrestle Max Caster next week on Dynamite in a qualifier. I am unclear on how many men are supposed to be in this match. I'm assuming 6, but we only have 4. We have 4 announced. We know that the 5th will either be 10 or Max Caster. Could Big Show be the 6th?
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting. I mean, not the greatest way to debut him, but I mean, when you think about it, there's no one guy he could face that would just be an absolute squash. So to put him in this kind of environment would be interesting. But would it be suited for him? I don't know.
Yeah, ladder match, not really the thing you want to put him in, but like, who is the sixth, if not Big Show? Like, what would you do here for a sixth man? Is there somebody on the roster that jumps out, or?
Well, right away, Matt Sydal, I think he's more than capable for this kind of match. I would definitely put him in there, but they'd have to somehow set up a match for that. I don't know, like on the pre-show for the pay-per-view or something, or announce it on the match for Dynamite, because they don't exactly have a lot of time to set this up.
That's it. I don't know about that. Matt Sydal. I'm not really sure.
What's the hate on Matt Sydal? What's wrong with Matt Sydal?
I just don't see him in a big match. I don't see why you put him in a big kind of pay-per-view match like that with Cody, and he's not at that level. Has he won a match on Dynamite yet? Why put him there? It's Pentagon, it's Lance Archer, it's Cody Rhodes, Scorpio Sky, 10 or Max Caster. I mean, I guess it does kind of drop off after Cody, Archer, and Pentagon, but like, how far do you really want it to drop off? Matt Sydal's been on Dynamite maybe 2 or 3 times, and he's lost every time. Why don't you just put the Hollywood hunk Ryan Nemeth in this match, I want to elevate this match, not kill it. How about Johnny Hungy?
Yeah, it's not impossible, sure. Yeah. But, I mean, you're already putting a member from the Dark Order more likely in the match. You're going to put 2 members in?
Yeah, why not? Dark Order's awesome.
I know you. Yeah, of course you would. Yes.
Yeah, they're good. Oh, wait, sorry. Johnny Hungy's already busy. He's going to be in a Casino Battle Royal with the winner receiving an AEW World Tag Team title shot. So there's going to be a Battle Royal as well, a Casino Battle Royal on the pay-per-view. Bear Country, I like that. The Bears taking on Reynolds and Silver, taking on Uno and Grayson, taking on Santana and Ortiz, taking on Butcher and Blade, taking on Private Party, and Top Flight. And there may be another team or 2 added to that.
Wait a minute. Double or Nothing is the next pay-per-view after Revolution, but we're having a Casino Battle Royal in this pay-per-view?
They have a Casino something. Don't they have a Casino something at every pay-per-view?
I feel like it All Out, but again, that's more like Casino related, isn't it? Because All In.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's a thing that they do when they're trying to, add guys on the pay-per-view. Casino Battle Royal. Casino Ladder Match. Casino Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match. So.
Well, I look forward to the Casino Street Fight at least.
Casino Sting Match. Who do you want to see Big Show wrestle in AEW? I'll give you 5 guys that I'd like to see him wrestle. Guys that we haven't seen him wrestle in WWE, right? Like, I don't really care to see him wrestle John Moxley or Miro, but I wouldn't mind seeing him wrestle Kenny Omega, the Bucks. Just off the top, just to see Big Show in a tag team match against, maybe Big Show and Jericho versus the Young Bucks. Like, that would be pretty amazing. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Big Show versus Kenny, I think, would be a lot of fun. Big Show versus Lance Archer, I think, would be really good. I think Big Show versus... I mean, him and Neville probably wrestled, but Big Show and Pac would be pretty awesome. Big Show and Rey Fenix, Big Show and Pentagon. Big Show and a lot of guys in AEW, I think, would be fun. Big Show and Marco Stunt, I think, would be weird. Let's do that. Big Show Jungle Boy, Big Show Luchasaurus. There's a lot of matches I want to see Big Show in. And I know that they're not going to call him Big Show because that's his WWE name, but until they come up with a better name for him. I'm not calling him Paul Wight. Remember when he was in WCW and he's about to come to the WWE and everybody thought that he was going to be called Titan? The Giant Titan? Remember that was his rumored name? Do you remember that?
I remember when he came in, they called him Paul Wight.
Yeah, but I remember before he came in, everybody thought they were going to call him Titan. That was the rumored name for him because of Titan Sports, but they were going away from Titan Sports at that time, but they wanted to keep the name alive, and he was a Giant, and they couldn't call him the Giant, so There was a rumor that he was going to be called Titan or Titan the Giant. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Didn't work. Maybe they call him Titan now. That'd be funny. But probably not. Probably not. How about Omos? That's a good name for a giant. Paul Wight. You know, I don't know. It's all right, but could they call him the Giant? Could they call him the Giant Paul Wight?
I think they're just gonna call him Paul Wight. Like, he's known in movies and TV shows, so I think that
As
name
Big
is,
Show.
Is good. But they say Paul Wight too in the credits, so
In the credits, but I don't know. Do you think that they could just call him Giant Paul Wight? I think they could. I think Giant, throwing the name Giant in there is key because of the, TNT, WCW affiliation. He was the Giant in WCW. He's back on TNT. Call him Giant Paul Wight. Or Paul the Giant White, something. Just throw the word, because Giant, you can't trademark Giant, right? Unless,
I think you could, actually.
Just the word Giant? Paul the Giant? Could he be called Paul the Giant? Like Andre, but Paul. I think you got to throw the word Giant in there. Because just Paul Wight just sounds like a man. And especially if he's going to be in a suit doing commentary, you don't want him to just have a man name. Here's Paul Wight. He's our commentator. It's like, all right. How about the Giant Paul Wight? He's on commentary, and sometimes he chokeslams folks and he wrestles. That's better. I'm happy to see him there. I've always been a huge fan of his, and I don't think that the WWE ever did him correctly. I think that there were moments, but few and far between for how good he is. I'm happy he went to AEW, and apparently it was a big shock to a lot of people in WWE. His contract ran out earlier this month, and his Netflix show was canceled, and looking for a change. WWE people not expecting it. I was watching Booker T talk about it earlier tonight, and he was like, I was shocked. Had no idea he was going to AEW. He was just on the WWE Legends Night in January. He had a match with Randy not long ago on Raw. 2-3 months ago, he was wrestling Randy on Raw, was he not?
It was more in the summertime, but
was it?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. Yeah.
Big Show's been around. He was at the Undertaker's retirement thing. Big Show's been around the WWE recently. When I heard Big Show signed to AEW, I was quite surprised. But then I saw that it was just for commentary, and I was like, eh. But then AEW said, no, he's going to wrestle too. And that got me interested. I don't think he's done. He's 49 years old, which in pro wrestling these days is young. He's got another 10 to 15 years left on his career, I guess. So I'm happy to see him.
Got a lot of injuries.
Yeah. And he's a big guy and all that, but I've always been a huge fan of Big Show. I love the Big Show.
I like him too. He's a great guy. I met him somewhat at a house show one time. He went into the wrong parking lot, so we got to wave at him. That was cool.
That's nice.
He was nice about it. But I don't know if there's much he can really do right now with AEW. Wrestle maybe the odd match here and there. He can be a funny guy on commentating, but it's not gonna really shake things up that much. It's nice, you know of him, but I don't think it is going to be that groundbreaking for AEW. It's nice to have something different on commentating besides Taz and Excalibur all the time.
They've added another legitimate pro wrestling Hall of Famer to their roster who can wrestle. You look at the WWE's roster and you could go on and on about the Hall of Fame talent that they have, right? I'll give you 5 right off the top of my head. AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, who else is there? Goddamn, Rey Mysterio, and throw freaking Edge in there too, who's already in their Hall of Fame, right? Those are just guys that they have. Cesaro, Kevin Owens, just guys that they have. Hall of Fame level talent, right? You look at AEW.
Right.
They have Jericho. They have Sting. They've got some guys that are good. They've got Kenny. They've got Hangman. But Kenny and Hangman, I wouldn't say are main event pro wrestlers yet. Kenny, if he continues on this path in a year or two, for sure. He's pretty much there now. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of the past 10, 15 years. Is he one of the greatest of all time? Maybe not yet, because we haven't seen the longevity on a big stage yet. But I believe that when it's all said and done, yes, Kenny will be among the elite Hall of Famers like Sting and Chris Jericho and Big Show. I think he'll be among that group, but I don't know if he's there yet. Hangman is the same deal. I don't know if he's there yet. Cody is the same deal, How many legit Hall of Famers do they have on the roster? Not too many. Big Show is a big one. Sorry, Matt Hardy. I forgot about Matt Hardy. He's a legit Hall of Famer, of course. Of course. Right? But there's a lot of guys kind of young, up-and-coming talent. And how do you get that talent over? You need some legends to put them over. I'm happy about it. Very happy to see Big Show join AEW. I think it's going to help the company tremendously. A little bit worried about next week. Hopefully everything is good. But Mark Quinn of Private Party is advertised for all sorts of stuff coming up next week at Revolution and so on. We haven't seen Mark Quinn in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know where he is. And also Pentagon, he's advertised for the pay-per-view. We haven't seen Pentagon in a couple of months. He's had visa issues, but I guess they have them resolved because they've been advertising for that March 7th match at Revolution. But they are advertising 2 guys in Pentagon and Mark Quinn of the Private Party that we have not seen. Pentagon we haven't seen in a long-ass time, and Mark Quinn we haven't seen in at least 2-3 weeks of Dynamite. His partner's there, but he's not there.
Well, you got to think about Pac as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Is he going to be at the pay-per-view? You think you put him in the ladder match, but will he be able to get back in the country?
I don't know. I hope so. Pac is not booked for the pay-per-view, which you would think he would be because he's a pretty good wrestler. He's one of their top talents, but of course the problems with the travel and all that stuff. We'll break down the pay-per-view next week on, Wrestling Uncensored or on this show, John? What do you think? I don't know.
I guess it would probably be on, this show.
Yeah.
It would make more sense, right? It's the
Yeah.
AEW show.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll break down the pay-per-view next week, and we'll recap the AEW Dynamite Crossroads edition. I forgot what it was called there. I was like, what is it? Cody Rhodes edition? Crossroads edition next week. Big week coming up in AEW. Big shout-out to our members, Patrick C. Hamilton, Douglas Hepburn, Angelo Contagonis, and, of course, there are more members, but those are the guys that I'm seeing in the chat right now. I know that there are other members. I'm trying to name all the members that I see, but those are the guys that I see. Craig Paquette as well, another member of the team. Please join, become a member of the team. We are providing you the best pro wrestling coverage in the world today. We are here after Monday Night Raw, after AEW Dynamite, after Friday Night SmackDown. Each and every week, breaking it down for you here as only we can. Been doing this for a very long time, and we are still going. Find everything that we do over at ringsidereport.net. Over, what now? Carry the one, man, 15, 16, 15 years plus of Ringside Report MMA, and Ringside Report Professional Wrestling. 15-plus years covering the great sport of professional wrestling. John A. North, of course, is a great professional wrestler. Nobody does it like the Ringside Report team, and we appreciate you all watching. We appreciate you. Shout out to Trailer Park Boys 20. Shout out to Danny Brugg, Patrick C. Hamilton, Mako 8033, Franco 316. So many guys on the chat here tonight. Noticing some new faces, some old faces. Lauren Cronish, he says hit the like button. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe. to the channel and click the bell when you subscribe. Also, go to donate.ringsidereport.net to support the team, donate.ringsidereport.net, and merch.ringsidereport.net. Johnny and I will be back here Friday night, 10 p.m. right after SmackDown. I'll be back here tomorrow night with my boys, Freddie and AJ, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night to talk MMA. We'll preview the Cyril Gane Jairzinho fight coming up on Saturday. We'll be doing a watch-along for the UFC card on Saturday as well. Magomed Ankalaev will be in action. Cyril Gane in action. Big UFC show on Saturday, and we'll be doing the watch-along for you. Freddie and AJ will be back with me here tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for Ringside Report MMA. See ya.
Thank you and good night.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Ringside Report started on the radio, added podcasts, and moved to video in 2019. Our hosts are not just fans, but have in-depth knowledge of the subjects. Become a member of our YouTube channel now and become a recurring supporter of our work as we strive to continue to entertain you in these strange times. Pro wrestler Johnny Genesis North joins lifelong wrestling fan and aficionado Dave Simon to host our pro wrestling programming with in-depth coverage of the WWE, AEW, and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Our flagship show, Wrestling Uncensored, is live every Friday right after WWE SmackDown. Here, you get a review of the week that was. You may not agree with our host. In fact, they often don't agree with each other. But you have an opportunity to chime in with your viewpoint in the chat rooms while live or in the comments section of YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook on the replay. Dave and Johnny also headline our coverage of major pro wrestling pay-per-views and breaking news. Dave Simon is joined by experienced jiu-jitsu fighters Fred Garcia and the ever-unpredictable AJ DeLesio, each Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern with Ringside Report MMA. They try and foresee what's next in the octagon and review, argue, and kibitz in a very friendly, irreverent manner. The three guys also team up to accompany you on all the major UFC pay-per-views with entertaining watch-alongs. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.